Hi, Fitzzebra, Emma here. Hope you are all good and ready for our new topic. So this half term we're going to be learning about a book, and our book is called A Christmas Carol. And it's a book that was written a long time ago, almost 200 years ago, by a man called Charles Dickens. So this half term we're going to be reading lots of different versions of the story and learning about all the different characters and what happens. And today I've got one of those books to share with you, and this one is a pop-up book, so the pictures pop up out of the page. So you are ready for our story of A Christmas Carol. One cold Christmas Eve, mean old Ebenezer Scrooge was hard at work in his office. It was no secret that he hated this time of year and didn't like wasting time and money on family and presents. His colleague Bob Cratchit, however, saw it as a wonderful time to spend with his dear wife and their children. By the end of the day, Bob had plucked up the courage to ask his boss if he could take Christmas Day off and spend it at home with his family. Scrooge huffed at this, but eventually said yes. Christmas? Bah humbug, he grumbled as he walked home in the deep snow. Here he is, there's mean old Scrooge in his office with Bob Cratchit. What a grumpy man. When Scrooge reached his own front door, a strange feeling came over him. He opened the door and quickly locked it behind him. Even after lighting the fire, the house still felt colder than the snowy streets outside. So he wrapped himself up in a blanket and made some warm tea. Just then, the sound of clanging metal was heard outside the door, getting louder and louder and louder until a strange man came into the room. The man was covered in heavy chains and introduced himself as Jacob Marley, Scrooge's old business partner. I've come with a warning and a chance to change your mean old ways before you end up like me, Ebenezer. Scrooge could not believe that this was his old business partner, but he listened closely. You will be visited by 3 ghosts. The first will appear as the bell tolls 1, and with a jangle of chains, Jacob was gone. Oh, there's Scrooge, looking very scared as his old business partner visits him covered in chains. Scrooge could hardly sleep a wink thinking about Jacob Marley's visit. Sure enough, as the clock struck 1, a tiny hand tapped him on the shoulder. She looked like a little child with long floating hair. Nice to meet you, Ebenezer. I am the ghost of Christmas past. I have something to show you. Quick as a flash, they flew to a busy place with fun and laughter, and Scrooge soon recognised that it was his old school. Suddenly, he saw himself as a boy, sitting all alone on the steps. He remembered how he'd never had any friends and preferred his own company to being with anyone else. But Scrooge also noticed how lonely the boy looked and pleaded for the ghost to take him home. She grabbed his hand and away they flew. So there's Scrooge with the ghost of Christmas past looking at what life was like for him when he was a little boy. He was lonely. Who's going to visit next? Scrooge was back in bed all alone once more. But it wasn't long before another ghost appeared. This was a jolly man who called himself the Ghost of Christmas Present. Scrooge was taken to a small home belonging to Bob Cratchit and his family. He peered through the window as Mrs. Cratchit prepared a simple Christmas dinner for them all. Bob arrived home with his son Tiny Tim singing a merry song. The Cratchits were very poor, and Tiny Tim was sick, but they still seemed very happy. Scrooge wondered what might happen to Tiny Tim if things didn't change, but soon found himself tucked up back in his bed again. So now we have the Ghost of Christmas Present, showing Bob Cratchit and his family. They don't have much money, but they're very happy. Who's going to visit next? The last ghost gave Scrooge a fright. He was taller than the rest in a long, dark cloak. You must be the ghost of Christmas future, the ghost of Christmas yet to come, the one I fear the most, sighed Scrooge. The ghost did not say a word, but led him onto the dark street. They passed the Cratchits' house, but Tiny Tim was nowhere to be seen. They finally arrived at a misty graveyard on the other side of town. He stopped at the gate with a long bony finger pointed to a grave nearby. Scrooge knelt down at the gate and read his own name. He looked at the ghost and promised that he would change his ways and live a long and happy life. But the ghost was not there anymore, and Ebenezer was back in bed once again. So there's Scrooge with the Ghost of Christmas Future. That's what will happen to Scrooge if he doesn't change his ways. What's he going to do? The sun began to shine through the curtains as Scrooge jumped out of bed. He ran to the window and called to a young boy on the street to ask what day it was. "Why, it's Christmas Day, sir." Scrooge was delighted that he hadn't missed it and asked the boy to fetch him the biggest turkey he could find. Scrooge then got dressed and delivered the turkey to the Cratchit family. The very next day, as Bob arrived in the office for work, he noticed a great change in Scrooge. He was not the mean old man he once was, but he was warm and kind. From then on, Scrooge gave Bob more money for all his hard work and became like an uncle to Tiny Tim, who thankfully wasn't sick anymore. That's the end of our story, where Scrooge changes his ways. He's no longer a grumpy old man, but he's kind to everybody around him. So I hope you're looking forward to learning more about Ebenezer Scrooge and the ghosts of Christmas past, present and future. See you soon. Bye.